Hello everyone, my name is Osayaba. Welcome to my channel, Showcase Africa. This is my inaugural video and I want to use it to talk about vintage Aso oke. Aso oke is a hand-woven fabric from Nigeria, from the Yorubas of the southwestern part of Nigeria. Now, Aso oke is worn all over Nigeria now. I'm from Edo State in Nigeria. My husband is from Lagos State in Nigeria. When I started looking at my cedar storage chests from over the years, I found so many pieces of different types of fabrics from Africa. And I thought, I should do a channel just to inform people about it. Now we're talking about just my collection. So this is my inaugural video and I'm so honored for all of you looking at this video right now. In this particular video, I want to do a tribute to my mother, my grandmother, and my auntie. I'm using my grandmother's vintage Aso oke, which I inherited, got from my mother in a roundabout way, and I even wore it this past December. I also have pieces from my trousseau. So that falls into the years of what I'm calling the vintage Aso oke. So that's from 40-something years ago. And then I have pictures of my mother and her sister, the Aso oke they wore in 1968 when they buried my grandmother, their mother. So come along. Why did I start this channel? I just talked about it a little bit. But as I go through this, I'm on the 6th floor of my life. And I'm going through my collections over the years. And I said, there's a story to tell here for legacy, for my children, grandchildren, hopefully great-grandchildren to come. And just wanting to preserve some of these memories and history through a YouTube channel. So as I go through the years, this is what I'm going to attempt to do. And then the different ways I now style Aso oke, if I style it the traditional way or more contemporary way, like you're looking at right now. I have on a dress, a throw is cold, and then my Aso oke gele is kind of my cap, my winter cap to keep me warm. So there are various things I'm attempting to do also to make sure all other people who may not be Africans, Nigerians, or Yorubas are not used to this Aso oke. They will look at the versatile way that we do wear Aso oke and how Aso oke matters, part of our heritage as Africans, as Nigerians, and the Yoruba people of Nigeria. The journey from my vintage Aso oke started from this cedar chest storage box where I kept many of my older Aso okes. And here I found this, wow, from my grandmother. And then also this from my trousseau, a second one from my trousseau. Wow, these are such treasures for me. And to be able to look at these again after so many years. So on this 6th floor of my life, with gratitude to God, and I'm decluttering. So that definitely brought me to opening this cedar story chest right here. So then I remember my grandmother, there is a picture. She had this particular ashoke on. So I definitely am going to look at the photo album from years ago to look at that picture again. So come on, let's go on to the album now. So here's one photo album, family album. Oh my goodness. Here's also an ashoke. I can talk about it and I will in this video, but I do not have uh, the pieces, but I can talk. I have a similar one I can use to show this right here. And I know what year this was the ashoke for their mother's burial, my grandmother's burial. Okay, let's keep moving. And wow, here's the one I'm looking for. Here's the one we're going to talk about today, analyze with the ashoke, the burgundy ashoke I showed you from my storage chest. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So come along. This is exciting. Now I want to show you this ashoke. This is from my grandmother, and I have a picture you will see immediately after this piece. So when you're looking at it, you see the patterns. Remember now, I said these are in strips. The patterns are not repeated in the back, but I want you to see the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strips. This probably really, or that it means over the shoulder, or the gele for the top. Sometimes it depends on the person, how many strips they want. They have some standard numbers that we use for it. You can add to it if you want to. Also, at this time, the strips were narrow, a bit narrower. Okay, so these are some of the things we will discuss. Now, we're going to come closer so you can see what I'm talking about, and I want you to see this arrow pattern. You see this arrow pattern? Because you might see it again as we're coming through the years, and you look at my trousseau, you may see this. I think this ashoke is actually more than 70 years, because you'll see my grandmother's picture. And so here, this is almost a constant in the pattern. You see it right there? The stripes here are green. Then you have this pattern. Then I move again to the constant, the repeated. Then this is a different pattern. Then I move again to this constant. And then this is a different pattern. Then it starts to mirror itself to some extent. Okay, so here, when you're looking at these patterns again, and you see them in the picture for my grandmother. So this is the first piece we're looking at. Again, look at the back. My grandmother is wearing it as an outfit, and you will see she tied her wrapper. And in her tying of the wrapper, you are able to see the side, the back of her ashoke fabric. I love the colors, and I wore this to a function this past December, and it's still holding up so well. So these are the different types of ashoke, but I'm doing vintage for this particular video and using my grandmother and my mother as springboard for you to see the vintage ashoke. There are many other types and patterns, but this is the one I have, an authentic one from many, many years ago. So this is the second ashoke we are looking at today. this was part of my trousseau when I got married. So my husband and I, we twin with this because he also has a set made in the male Agbada style. Now, when we look at this same strip, this was like 11 years later. But remember, my grandmother probably had this for a long time already. Okay. But what I want to show you is here is this pattern here. Look at this pattern here. It's still repeated here for my trousseau. Okay. So we look at some of those African patterns passed down through the years. These are a bit wider than this, but same concept we're looking at. And some people say different families, the Yoruba families weaving, they had different patterns that spoke to their particular family. So it may be that this a particular family, this is the pattern they came up with, which other people also emulated in their ashoke. So let me come closer with this ashoke. So you look at it. Also at this time, see, the pattern is not on the back. But there are new patterns we see right here at this time. You see some different ones here that we're looking at right here. And the joining. This definitely is Ikpele 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, this was my wrapper. 9. There are 9 strips. 9 strips to this. So, remember, I was so much younger, 20, something like that. And now I'm on the 7th floor of my life. I mean, the 6th. I'm so sorry. I'm in a hurry. I'm on the 6th floor. So you see, we can make mistakes. The next ashoke I want to show you is also one that came in my trousseau. At this time, you could see the thread was a bit shinier. The first one I showed you was kind of muted, just cotton, beautiful. And this too is beautiful. And I will show you the pattern that also we have in the vintage. So when you look at this, you see this arrow-like pattern right here. Okay, let me bring this. And when you see also the same pattern. This was also years later, okay? Years later. Same pattern right here. And I'm still doing research to see if these were some kind of crest for some families that wove this. If I get that information, I definitely will share. So you see that arrow and also this arrow in this. But then something else was also happening at this time. The loom, you see this right here. They started also this style of putting the thread through. If you look at the back, it's still not, it's still plain. The pattern doesn't come out on the back, but you have the holes for the thread added to this piece right here. So this was also my trousseau. You'll see in my trousseau, and you'll see a picture of me wearing this. At that time, as a particular time in fashion, you wore a different type of top with a different type of fabric. And you've seen it in the picture of my grandmother, and you will see it in the picture of my mother, and also with this right here. So when you look at my gele, that's my headgear. This is a piece with a different style coming up. And when we talk about the evolution, the way the fashion evolved, in Africa, also dealing with the ashoke. So with these, you will see a similar one my mother wore in the picture after I show you exactly how this piece looks. This is another vintage pattern. So I want to come close so you can see it. The lines, you see, it's a bit different, more contemporary. This was just a few years from the first ones I showed to you, because right now this pattern, probably I'm looking at 40 something years back. Okay, you will see it in my mother's picture. She wore something similar with this pattern right here. Again, the strips got wider. If you look at the strips, they got wider than the first, and I'll compare in a minute. You'll see them together. So if you see how the colors are kind of moving into each other in the lines, in the lines, in the lines, I could just imagine my mother saying, wow, a new Ashoke has come. My mother loved to dress, and I know I got that from her. So when you look at this, you see the colors, and these could come in various colors. So that's what I want to show about this Ashoke. So please look at the picture. It's black and white, because at that time when they wore it in Nigeria, we didn't have colored pictures. Our pictures were not colored yet, or have that type of camera that did that. But I love these pictures. They are vintage pictures to me too. So I want you to please look at it closely. So right here, you see this pattern right here? I love it. And remember at the beginning, I wore it. Remember, I talked about how narrow the strips were initially, years ago, which is how the look was set up. So now look at this. This is the length of the ashoke. Remember this one right here? So look at the width of that strip right there. Okay. But look at this is in modern days. And this has started maybe a few years back, and see how wide this is compared to this. Just look at this. This from here to here. And this now is wider. And I want to compare it with all three. So the next one is also, remember this piece from my trousseau? And you're looking at it in the back, because I want you to see the stitches. Okay, so again, you're looking at the width. Now, see, here to here is that. And now look at the width right here. The other piece from my trousseau, same thing. Let me use the back. Let's do it on the back so it can be well seen. So again, look at the width from here to here. And then let me bring this strip right here. So look right here. Look at the width. This is from here to here. And look at this right here. Something else you want to really notice about this strip I'm using as an example. Remember how these patterns right here, the patterns on the front do not show on the back. So here, when I look at this, this is the front of this, but look at it on the back. Okay, this is the front, but this pattern is repeated also in the back. Of course, you know that this is the back, but we can see how the thread is to determine that this is the front. Now, let me compare this width with this. So let's go on the back so you can see the stitch right here. This is where the stitch is, where this one joins the other. And look at now. Look at it. It's wider. Even this is even a bit wider than this right here. So that's what I'm talking about those differences. Thank you so much for watching this video to this time. These are the vintage Aso okes we looked at today in this video. I'm so grateful you stayed with me, and I know your comments. I'll have a lot to learn from your comments. While these are the vintage Aso okes, this is the one I use for the comparison for the width of the strip of woven Aso oke in the traditional sense. Remember, there will be a part 2 and I think a part 3 as we look at Aso okes through the years. Please, if this was a wonderful video for you, share with others. I want them to learn more about